All right, good morning, Swartz Creek Dragons. This is Jim Kitchen, Deputy Superintendent here in Swartz Creek.
And I'm Rodney Heatherton, Superintendent of Swartz Creek Community Schools.
And we have the man, the myth, the legend, our distinguished guest, Dr. Adam Hartley. Pleasure to have you with us on this podcast this morning.
Hey, thank you. Good morning. Glad to be here. Appreciate it.
This has been a very eventful week for us. Mr. Heatherton, anything you'd like to share with the community?
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say a big thank you for passing our zero tax rate millage. We had yes votes exceed the no votes by 1,700 votes. Very exciting, and now all the hard work is really about to kick off with getting the team together and getting those drawings going and getting a schedule. But thank you. If you put out a yard sign, if you were talking to your friends and relatives, if you were on social media, if you hung out at one of our activities or athletic games and participated, we just thank you so much for your support. Swartz Creek always comes out big when it's time to support the schools, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, and we're going to update you every step of the way. This is going to be an awesome really transition for us here in Creek. This was well needed, and we appreciate your support and look forward to the developments that are going to take place with this over the next couple of years. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. And so Dr. Hartley is a former superintendent of Fenton Community Schools, and he also was the assistant superintendent at one time right here in Swartz Creek. He's currently one of the co-founders of iWellness, and I think we've talked about wellness before on the podcast. We thought it'd be great to have him come in and explain a little bit about what iWellness does and how we're using it in Creek. And Dr. Hartley, tell us a little bit about iWellness.
Yeah. First of all, congratulations. Certainly understand the hard work that everybody puts into bond proposals and sinking funds, and so congrats. What great news. So really, I appreciate that. So iWellness was born out of really a gap that our CEO and founder Whitney Foley, myself as a 26-year educator, my career teacher, principal, assistant superintendent here in Swartz Creek, working with you two, which was some of the best times of my career, and then ultimately superintendent. And then my wife, Nicole, who taught here for, 12, 13 years, just kind of, seeing this gap in student wellness. And so we, this idea of checking in with students in real time. And really, iWellness Center was created, the software platform was created on really three pillars. Student voice. So as you guys know, because I know you were using the tool, where the staff would kind of observe, kind of perceive behaviors. And there's a lot of tools out there for that. But so giving the students their own voice and what's happening with their wellness, their emotions in that given time. Proactiveness is huge. I know for me as a former principal and a superintendent, we're constantly reacting to those behaviors. And we know that behaviors are simply a symptom of what's going on in a child's life. And then finally, flexibility. We wanted to create this software where any school, any district can plug us into their multi-tiered system of support or early warning system. And, Swartz Creek has been phenomenal. The time I worked here, I know when Nicole was a teacher here, just the intentionality of the multi-tier and looking at meeting kids at the tier 1 level and then that intense support into 2 and 3. And so the platform really was, again, to be a solution to giving students a voice in their wellness, to be flexible and allow schools to decide where does this fit in, and to give really schools data that really wasn't being collected from the student's perspective. And then that real-time support, students checking in, you guys, the schools being able to say, wow, they're struggling and feeling connected, or with self-esteem, or maybe they feel like their friendships aren't being healthy right now. For you, the school staff, to be able to connect with that student in real time. Now into year 3, just hearing the stories coming out of how that they've been able to deter situations where may have been harmful for the particular student themselves or them harming others, whether that's physical, emotional, or mental.
That's right.
Hey, Jim, do you know what I heard?
What did you hear?
I heard that his time with you and I
That's
was so fantastic. That's how he became so successful. And
We
went
made
on.
him who he is.
Yeah, superintendent, entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
Speaking of MTSS, Jim, how did we get here, and how did we choose iWellness, and what was that process like?
Well, interestingly, it probably was my first day on the job where Rod kind of charged us with getting a screener that could help us identify students who might be struggling in the area of mental health. And it was so fitting because for the last 6 years, we have been really focused on the impacts of trauma in our classrooms. And so this was fitting. We interviewed several companies to find a great screener, and actually ended up with iWellness before Dr. Hartley was part of that, which was very interesting. And I've always said, I mean, there may be people out there say, oh, you know Dr. Adam Hartley and you bring in this software anyway. Well, if you know Dr. Adam Hartley, you'd follow him anywhere. The guy's an innovator in education, and if he's a part of something, I want to be a part of that. And so this absolutely has become a gem for us because, you know, I tell a story often. There are some students where you recognize and you know when they walk in the door that they're battling with something. But there are some students that you can't tell. And that was my experience with iWellness. A student that I hold in high esteem, very introverted personality, but graduated in the top 10, was a leader in the building and in the program. I would have had no idea that he was struggling with feeling connected had it not been for this screener. And it gave me the opportunity to go and just kind of put my hand on his shoulder and say, man, how are things going? And very eye-opening for me. And from that point forward, I became very much an advocate for this. Our kids are bringing this mental health wherever they are. They're bringing it every day. And it's just in this day and time, it's not okay to not know. And that's what iWellness does. It helps us to know.
That's one of the things that we talk about all the time is that data exists,
Yes.
whether you collect it or not.
That's
so
right.
would you not rather know than not know?
Yeah.
And we at Swartz Creek have definitely said we want to know. We want to know where these kids are coming from. Adam, tell us a little bit about how these questions are formed. Where did you come up with the questions? What are the questions? And how does that help us track students?
Yeah, absolutely. And that story really is reflective of kind of the why behind iWellness. So really, the questions are rooted through Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what you explained about that particular student, we can say for ourselves as adults and any human, where we're kind of up and down when it comes to emotions, and we may be feeling isolated for whatever reason. And we lean on our friends, we lean on family members, we want to connect with somebody to kind of help us through those tough times. And again, on that very tier 1 level, to be able to connect with that student that you're talking about before he went through 2, 3, 4 weeks, before something bubbled up to where, again, it's being reactive and maybe it's too late. Maybe he's flunking, out of a class or his parents are, wondering, it's kind of gotten too far, and now what are we going to do with this situation? So that story is very reflective of the reason why. Going back to our questions, so they're rooted through Maslow's hierarchy of needs, kind of that, educating the whole child. And if we're going to do that, let's also focus in on that wellness and are those needs being met. So you're looking at safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, and then ultimately that self-awareness, where we all, our goal is to be resilient, have a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. I mean, that's where we want our students to be. So we actually have an advisory board that we have a pediatric nurse practitioner, we have a school counselor, school psychiatrist, school social worker, we have a high school principal, we have a superintendent. And so we really...
That's me.
We really have, and we will continue to kind of lean on the practitioners, the people in the trenches, to give us feedback of what should we be asking, what data do you want? And we hold a number of focus groups with students and with staff. So those 7, the original kind of what we call our flagship check-in, there's 7 questions. Do you feel safe at school? Do you feel connected? Are you happy? And it really, again, kind of rooted through Maslow's. But this year we did deploy a second check-in, which some of your buildings are using, and they fall under the same umbrella. They fall under, again, safety, love and belonging, self-esteem, self-awareness. But we it took us a year and a half to get to those second set of questions. We took the 80,000 plus check-ins that we've collected over 2.5 years. We vetted it through our advisory board. We worked with Dr. Craig Mertler. He's part of our research team. So we really take pride in reliability. We want to make sure that those questions are valid. And so through those check-ins, through our advisory board, and through those focus groups, we know that these questions are getting at the root of what you schools need to collect that data to connect. So there is a process there. One thing I'd like to point out, a white paper that is out there with Swartz Creek, it's on our website. So it's one kind of mini case study that we've done and talks about the staffing capacities and the decisions that you've made based on the iWellness data, which is amazing. We have another district that we're finishing up a case study at their middle school. And again, going back to reliability and valid data, actually the data coming out of this is not only practical significance. So of course, counselors, social workers, administrators using that data in a very practical sense to support students. But what we're seeing is it's statistically significant. So that tells us that the work that you're doing, that other schools are doing, it's not random, that kids' wellness is improving. And, to be able to show that this is statistically significant, really, we want kind of a feather in our cap, but to say great job to you and your staff and great job to the other school staff that, each day they're putting in this hard work. And at what point do they get to see this quantitative data of, wow, what I'm doing is actually working? And so that's we love to have those conversations with our school partners.
I'd love for Jim to explain a little bit about how our different buildings go into intervention after they have the data. But just real quick, for those of you that are familiar with MTSS, we always start with a screener, and a screener is normally universal, meaning that we give it to everyone. And when you give that screener to everyone, you then have a base set of data to see what's going on. So iWellness is our screener for mental health or for wellness in general. That then allows us to, put together services and interventions for kids who might need some help. So we use this data as screening data, and then we get to work. So how are some of the ways we've structured that in Swartz Creek?
Well, I think one of the biggest pieces, because of our focus on the impact of trauma on students, was the implementation of social work in every one of our buildings. I can remember, and I may have told this story before on a podcast, but Rod at one point was principal at Morris. I was principal at Elms Road. And he had this crazy aspiration of going to central office, and I didn't understand it at the time. But he always talked at the elementary level about the importance and the need of having social work services. And then one of the first things he did when he became superintendent was to make that happen. So our buildings have this structure in place. They have instructional coaches now at every building. We have student success coordinators, and they become the structure for iWellness. One of our highlights is at our high school. We have a hub there, and all the services are really housed in one area. When they get the reports, every 2 weeks we take this screener. When they get the reports, they're able to go directly to reach out to students. So that could mean just popping in and, as I mentioned, putting a hand on a shoulder and saying, "Are you okay?" Or it could be more intensive. If they're willing and interested to talk and need support, that happens. And that structure really exists in all of our buildings where they have this support. When the American Psychological Association has stated that mental health is a national emergency in our country. And so I am just so proud that Swartz Creek has really decided to spearhead this and to say that, this data exists, we have to be able to collect it and do something with it. And I think people like Dr. Adam Hartley, who are involved in this work, and I really see the value. Great things happening, even with the Michigan Department of Education, being in contact with iWellness, and just the awakening that's happening with people recognizing the need for this service is amazing. And I'm glad that we're pioneers in this, and Rod, that you had a vision to put the structure in place before adding iWellness on. It really is going to do wonderful things. The next question, the next step, in my opinion, is our staff and staff wellness and how we can use iWellness to support our teachers. Again, after COVID, very stressful career, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because it's kind of like, if the airplane's going down, put your own oxygen mask on. And certainly as a principal and into a superintendent, I understand it. Where staff wellness and if again, Maslow's hierarchy, if their needs aren't being met, then that's going to trickle down. We have heard that from a lot of districts, and we're actually working with our software team to develop a staff check-in. And we're excited to, roll that out. And I have no doubt that Swartz Creek will be one of the trailblazers because you are constantly checking like, hey, we want our teachers to feel that we're checking in with them. They have needs. We just heard we're working with a juvenile facility in Oakland County and onboarding them to use with the juveniles. But one thing that they asked is, do you have something for our own staff? So, this is this isn't necessarily student-centered, it's human-centered. So no matter the age, no matter the situation, again, as human beings, we should be checked in on, and we should have people that we know we're connected to. And educators, they work tired. It's the work that teachers and counselors and everybody associated with school buildings are doing. They deserve to be checked in on, and they deserve to have the support they have as well. So I appreciate your leadership, understanding of if you had something like that, and then to be able to build professional development and to be able to give the adults in the district support based on that data. So you guys are trailblazers, always have. Like I said, I've learned everything from you guys, so I appreciate that. But we are looking at a staff check-in as well, because again, we want to fill the gap that's needed, and we hear that from a lot of districts.
I love excuse me, I love when you say it's about the human element. That's one of the things that if you're a principal listening to this podcast, you don't have to have the resources that Swartz Creek has or that your neighbor has, or it's about the people in your building. So for example, we're social work heavy at the high school in terms of who helps coordinate the access to intervention after we look at the iWellness data. But at the middle school, it's counselor heavy. And then at the elementary schools, it's principal, social worker, student success coordinator, instructional coach. And so it just depends on who is that team that you're willing to trust with all this data and to put in some just real good research-based interventions in place. So thank you. I love all the kudos back and forth. I'm going to give you one more chance to brag here. When you first started, you had a couple of districts. Going into year 3, I know that you've expanded. Could you talk a little bit about your clientele, the number of schools you have now, and what's next on the horizon for iWellness?
Yeah, no, it is exciting. And again, appreciate Swartz Creek being one of those trailblazers. And, I would like to think the time you guys spent with me a decade ago, but we won't go there. So we're working with over 100 schools now in Michigan. We have schools in Missouri. We just onboarded a school in Alaska. But our really focus is Michigan. And Jim, you alluded to MDE. So we had an opportunity this year to onboard schools through a grant through MDE, so no cost to schools. And we actually, it's called the My Wellness, so we put an M in front of iWellness. Very creative there. But we're able to offer, our goal is one school from every district in Michigan, because a lot of districts, this is very new. This approach is new. And that's when I say trailblazers, I am being very sincere about that, because this is a new way of approaching student wellness, of in real time, student voice. So a lot of schools kind of want to, pilot, or okay, maybe we start at our middle school, kind of see how that goes. So we have the opportunity this year to onboard schools, and then we're working with MDE to go into a second year and really this multi-year case study. And so there's going to be a lot of opportunities next year for districts to join. And I forget where kind of you guys are sitting when it comes to contracts, but the work we're already doing with you and the case studies, you would just roll into that grant as well. So for, the listeners that are wondering about Swartz Creek's budget. Over 100 schools, we continue to onboard various districts. We have meetings next week with districts in the Upper Peninsula and Northern Michigan, which we're excited about. And on top of that, we work with community colleges, and we just onboarded our first corporation and into the business world. So yeah, very exciting. And again, that's that human aspect, really keying in on people's needs no matter what age they are.
Well, we are honored that you could spend some time with us this morning. We fully believe in getting to know what students need and where they are mentally, emotionally, and just, socially within the school building. Jim, any last words?
Oh, it's a great day to be a dragon and a lion.
All right.
Thank you, Swartz Creek.
Awesome. Thank you.